I'm interested in, Rich, whether you think that sort of content, Barbie plus what Paramount has, would be a good equation together.
Look, putting content together always makes a tremendous amount of sense, having scale and content. But honestly, I couldn't disagree more with the analyst's viewpoint before. Putting two linear TV companies together, 1+1 does not equal 2. As we've seen, when you put Viacom and CBS together, you've ended up with 0.5. When you put those two companies together, putting Warner Media together with Discovery has led to maybe 0.5. You put these two now combined companies together, you're not going to get more than 2. You're going to get a lot less, because at the end of the day, the problem is linear TV is collapsing. Advertising is never getting better. It's in secular decline for TV. Viewership is in secular decline. Cord cutting, meaning cable, satellite, these virtual cable companies like a YouTube TV or a Hulu Live, the overall number of subscribers are in secular decline. People are moving away from bundles of channels to streaming services. Those are not fixable things. And so when 70% of your company is linear TV, that's Warner Brothers Discovery today, and 150% of your earnings at Paramount today are from linear TV, putting them together doesn't solve the problem. The way you solve the problem is dramatically shrinking your linear TV business, scaling it down dramatically, not trying to enlarge it and try to take out some costs. It means literally cutting 70, 80% of the employees at these cable networks, at these broadcast networks. You have to dramatically reduce cost.
Let's put to one side, okay, whether or not you think the deal should happen. Can the deal happen? Would it ever pass the regulatory test?
Well, that is a great question that I think is not being talked about enough, actually, in the last 24 hours. So thank you for asking that. The reality is no. I think the odds are actually very slim. But first of all, we don't even know what administration, let's just say this was announced in February or March. Let's just, for humor me. You wouldn't get approval within 12 months. You would need both DOJ antitrust. You would also need FCC approval. This would be a long, arduous process. Given a potential shift in the administration, whether that happens or not, I have no idea. But the odds that this thing gets approved, I think, would be very difficult in a Democratic administration we have today, given the way they've looked at horizontal mergers. And I also think it would be very difficult in a Republican administration, given sort of their dislike of a lot of the traditional media, news media especially. You'd be talking about putting CNN together with CBS News. Good luck. Those are not going to be easy transactions. But again, I don't think it's going to get to that, because I don't think there's any real story here. I think this is sort of a there is reasons why both of these companies want to be seen as merger candidates. Is because their businesses are in secular decline, and they'd like to have some form of M&A happen in 2024.
And Rich,
the reality is it's unlikely.
And it's certainly unlikely before April, right? Because Warner Brothers Discovery's got its hands tied in terms of doing any sort of deal post the prior deal that they're still sort of putting together. But Rich, what therefore could happen? Both of these assets, parts of the assets, are in play. I mean, goodness, consolidation across the entire industry is in play. Pandora's box is open. Where do we go? What should be sold to who?
Well, I think go back. I mean, over the summer, you probably remember Sun Valley. Bob Iger got up and said, oh, ABC's for sale, or linear TV channels are for sale. I think everybody in the media sector is realizing we've hit the point of secular decline. And so everyone's, everyone is rushing for the exit. That classic cartoon where everyone's trying to squeeze through the door. Everybody wants to sell. The problem is who wants to buy? And I think the investors, I mean, I'm sure if you pull up stock charts on Paramount and Warner Brothers Discovery, you'll see both are down on the news. Investors don't like this. More linear TV is not the answer. Anyone who says that putting linear TV and linear TV is going to magically make it better is just wrong. It's a flawed thesis. These companies need to focus less on mergers and focus more on what is the right strategy. And so the right strategy is not trying to be a streaming company, not trying to be Netflix. It's too late. They can't do it. They don't have the balance sheets or the financials. And so take the content. Take Barbie. You mentioned that at the outset. These companies make great content. HBO is a great content engine. Stop trying to be Netflix. Focus on what you're good at. which is creating great content and monetizing it to whoever wants to buy it
Rich,
around
hold on.
the world.
Rich,
and
hold
I
on
really
1 second.
think that's the key.
You started by saying you fundamentally disagree with Laura Martin of Needham. Her point was that the content's the key. If you combine them, you have a much bigger library of content, making you more competitive against the likes of Netflix, etc. So let's go back to basics. One, do you think this is a good deal? It sounds like no. And B, what about the content combination?
It's a sort of, you're missing, she's missing the entire story here, which is, sure, if you could just buy Paramount, the studio, and combine it with Warner Brothers Discovery, that would be great. I think there would be, as we've written, there would probably be 7 or 8 potential buyers of Paramount, the studio, if it was for sale. Again, the problem here is not the studio. The problem is that I want to make this clear, over 150% of the earnings of this company come from the cable networks, the broadcast, the linear TV assets. So again, not the content creation vehicle, the linear TV assets. And so putting linear TV assets together is not a smart idea. It's why the stocks are down. This is not just about, anyone who says this is about putting the content together is completely missing the fact that what you're actually doing is putting 2 dying linear TV businesses together, and you're not solving the fundamental problem.
But doesn't that make it better at making a streaming product?
TV?
Doesn't that make it better at a streaming product?
Sure, it would definitely make a streaming product better, absolutely. But you'd be weighing it down with having an even greater exposure to linear TV, which is in rapid secular decline. So yes, it adds more content to the streaming service, but then you have to ask yourself, should you actually be in the streaming business, or should you be an arms dealer? Sony is sitting out there smiling, making hundreds of millions of dollars of profit. There are no losses. They're laughing at the rest of the industry, looking at how everyone else is just burning black holes in streaming. You don't have to be a streamer. You don't have to. We thought these companies could, and I don't think they can. Peacock is not a business. Paramount Plus is not a business. I think Max, honestly, it's a good idea originally. I don't think the balance sheet and the financial situation is capable. I think they should go back to HBO, go back to something smaller, and just execute on what they can and sell their content. Ballers does far better on Netflix than it did on HBO. Suits did far better on Netflix than it did on Peacock. Like, do what you're great at. Make great content and stop trying to be a streaming platform if you can't do it. And I think the last couple of years has really proven, and I think the capital markets are telling you, these companies can't do it. And so M&A, it makes bankers fees. I understand why every banker is proposing it, and I understand all the leaks and all the trying to get something to happen. But I honestly believe you're fixing the wrong problem. The problem is the strategies need to shift. Making these things bigger is not the right answer.